I don't attribute racism to God.
But the reality is that for over 130 years, these men have pointed to God for their racist policy.
How come the blacks didn't get the priesthood until 1978? What's up with that, Brother Wilcox? What, Brigham Young was a jerk? Members of the church were prejudiced?
And they were members.
And they've made a mistake.
Well, okay, but that mistake has serious consequences.
Maybe we're asking the wrong question. Maybe instead of saying, why did the blacks have to wait until 1978? Maybe what we should be asking is, why did the whites and other races have to wait until 1829?
General, we have an intruder. He just walked right into camp. I believe that Satan has a hold of you. I believe that the Lord God has sent me here. And I believe that in 1978, God changed his mind about black people. Black people!
And I remember pointing to my hand and saying, reading in the Book of Mormon, you have the Lamanites and the Nephites, and oftentimes the Lamanites have dark skin. How, if in any way, does that relate to me? And there was a quiet immediately after that question was put forth. And one of the two missionaries got up from the couch. We were all three seated on one couch, sort of staggered out to see one another. And one of the missionaries got up and walked over to the corner, left his companion there. And the words were, well, Brother Gray, the primary implication is that you won't be able to hold the priesthood. Now that's a quote. I remember that now 54 years later.
So until 1978, right, black people could not hold a temple recommend, right? Now, a temple recommend is vital to your salvation. So is the priesthood. So if you can't hold a temple recommend, you can't go in and make covenants, including sealings, right? So your family will never be eternal. And if you can't hold the priesthood, you have no way to heal your family, pray for your family, bless your family.
There was a ban that existed from 1852 to 1978. And while I wasn't around for any of it, that ban being in place still today carries ramifications for members of the church, and in particular for black members of the church.
The missionary went on to explain because of my race and I was cursed and whatever else. But when I heard those first words, I just thought how foolish I had been. Kind of like a kid who had taken candy from a stranger, had been bamboozled, as Malcolm might say. And I thought, there's no way in hell I'm going to be baptized into that church tomorrow. And yet I was baptized the next day. Looking out the bedroom window into the Colorado night sky, I received personal revelation that said, this is the restored gospel and you are to join. No mention of the priesthood restriction, whether it was of God or of man, just or unjust. I did not see angels, did not see God the Father, Jesus Christ, none of that, but I heard the words. And so based on that, on December 26th, 1964, I entered into the waters of baptism. Then I had the lobotomy.
I think people want to feel that there was purpose in it, and when they can't find the purpose in it, they struggle with that.
I'm reminded of a Sunday sitting in sacrament meeting in an LDS chapel, sitting in the center section on the aisle and having the sacrament presented to me, and I partook of the sacrament. Then I reached for the sacrament tray to be able to pass it on to the person next to me. And the good brother who held that tray quickly withdrew it so that my hand could not even touch the handle. And he reached around me and passed it to the next person.
Most Latter-day Saints for a long time were very ignorant of the history of the church. So there were saints that thought blacks never had the priesthood. I would encounter things like that in seminary or something like that. I would say, oh, that's actually not true. Elijah Abel had the priesthood. And then, my seminary teacher would say, Wikipedia is not a recognized church source. Or I'd bring him, Darius Gray's books, and he's like, I don't know him. Is he in the 12? Well, no, you know that this black man is not in the 12.
While there were kind, loving people, they were unaccustomed to seeing or dealing with persons of color. Many meant well, but they often made missteps, and it was uncomfortable. As you would encounter and talk with individuals, comments such as, well, Brother Gray, you're living so righteously, I can see already you're starting to lighten. And if you continue to follow the gospel, your skin will become lighter and lighter. They saw that as a compliment. I did not.
Oh my gosh!
I am Moroni. I am a Native American.
A Native American? But your skin is white.
Yes, long ago all Native Americans were white. We all came to America from Jerusalem. Eventually my people were all killed by the other tribe of Israel. And as punishment, God turned their skin red. These are the Native Americans you know today.
I was shown products that are being put on the marketplace today. Figurines, one of them depicting a white, Nephite, and then because Laman and Lemuel are the brothers of the good guy in church history, in the Book of Mormon, we have Lemuel fully depicted as a deep man of color. And for that to go on the market today and this year, even though the church has disavowed that skin color is a mark of any curse and is not indicative of such and should not be seen as such, we yet want to portray those who have not done that which God would have them do with a dark skin tone.
Well, the Book of Mormon, they talk about this curse of black skin. I think that the curse of blackness is countenance. I've seen some very white people that were very dark. You don't get to determine, or you don't get to decipher for me what something means, and I'm not going to allow you to place something on me that God didn't.
Take that same concept and think about the white people that have left the church. If that was a true skin color, white folks would be back in the church so fast because they would turn black. How many white people that turn black because of their unrighteousness from leaving the church would come, oh, hell no. Lord, this black skin, I can't take it. They'd be back.
The Mormons are not unique in their disconnect with black people.
Catholicism wouldn't let black folks hold the priesthood. When we were slaves, blacks couldn't go to the Southern Baptist Church. We had to have our own congregation. So it's not unique by any stretch of the imagination for the LDS Church. This is not unique. It's just going on far too long.
We seem to be in a historical process that has to be worked through, and the Mormons were not exempt any more than anybody else without exempt from solving that problem.
It was estimated that worldwide in 1965, there may have been 300 members of African descent worldwide.
I'm a politician. I've held all these public offices. And in southern Nevada, the Las Vegas area, African Americans at one time were about 15 to 18% of the population. So how did that go over, running politically, that blacks were treated differently than whites? That was hard. That was a hard thing for me to accept.
From 1830 to 1978, blacks could not become priests in the Mormon Church, right?
That's correct.
Why?
Because the leaders of the church at that time interpreted that doctrine that way.
Church policy had it that blacks had the mark of Cain. Brigham Young said, Cain slew his brother, and the Lord put a mark upon him, which is the flat nose and black skin.
Orson Pratt has advocated for black male voting rights in 1852, and Brigham Young stridently rejects that with racism. He says we just as well give mules the right to vote as Negroes and Indians. And what we're trying to do today is to make black people equal with us, and my voice will be against that all the day long, he says.
We now, in fact, have a speech in 1856 where Pratt, an anti-slavery speech where Pratt actually says that. There is no proof that Africans are descendants of Cain. He's suggesting that multi-generational curses are not a thing. God may, in fact, in the Bible, curse a generation or curse a person, right? But that's specific to that time and place, and it certainly doesn't pass down through the generations. In other words, he's really sticking with the second article of faith that, people are punished for their own sins and not for Adam's transgression.
It's behind us. Look, that's behind us. Don't worry about those little flicks of history.
It would be unfair not to recognize the distance we've come. And there has been a shift, a cultural shift, not just a doctrinal shift, because it had been considered that it had been a point of doctrine that blacks were denied the LDS priesthood. And then it came to a point of, well, it was policy, not doctrine.
People will say, don't you think that if the church allowed blacks to have the priesthood before 1978, because of the social climate of the time, then people wouldn't have joined the church, because of how people felt about blacks? And immediately I'm like, okay, I will repeat back to them. So here's what you are saying to me. God wanted a big church full of racists instead of a smaller church full of non-racist black, brown, and white people. So God needed to cater to the racists so that we could have a big church of racists.
One of the hardest things as a black man is that we don't have any representation in the leadership, and we won't have any representation for a long time.
Brothers and sisters, thank you. Thank you for all you do to become and to help others become true followers of Jesus Christ.
We are just at a place where we can acknowledge this much of that pain, this much of that history, and acknowledging it, we still don't want to say this was wrong.
I woke up real early to a whole bunch of excited black, white, and brown Mormons who thought that the church had issued an apology for the racism in the church. We have previously acknowledged that the false and racist explanations for the priesthood and temple restriction were wrong and disavowed them. Today, I am declaring that the ban itself was wrong. It was not of God. It turns out it was fake. But unfortunately, what wasn't fake was the real emotions that people attached to it. Responses I got from people today. I think I can stay. Just when I thought I was never coming back. I never thought this day would come. I'm seriously floored and so happy. We have a history that we're not dealing with, and that history is causing trauma for all of its members. I just don't understand how we think we're going to be at the forefront of healing racism in the world when we have not healed it in our own body.
We're not getting as far down the road as we need to and as we ought to. There are those who are still troubled by past approaches, precepts, views, those that they considered were doctrine that are affecting individuals today, black and white.
I think racism is one of those evils that's profound enough, deep enough, that we can't, as Latter-day Saints, kind of assume that we're immune to in the past or present. It's that powerful and pervasive. And so I'm not surprised when I come up against evidence of LDS racism. I'm not. I'm a historian of American history. It's systemic. It's pervasive. It's ever with us.
Now I am told that racial slurs and denigrating remarks are sometimes heard among us. I remind you that no man who makes disparaging remarks concerning those of another race can consider himself a true disciple of Christ, nor can he consider himself to be in harmony with the teachings of the Church of Christ.
There are times in life where you have joy. I mean, just joy. I don't know how else to explain it, where you just feel so hard to describe how you feel. In 1978, I was a lawyer here in Las Vegas. I was chairman of the Gaming Commission. One of the lawyers walked into my office and said, Mr. Reed, he was a Mormon guy that worked for me. He said, the prophets just announced that blacks are going to be treated like everybody else. Oh, I felt so happy before I joined the church, and I don't know what it was, 66 or something. So for 12 years, that was really difficult.
Again, people were well-meaning. They had been taught to believe a certain way, and they had accepted those teachings. And they didn't know what else to apply in a relationship, a conversation, than that which they had been taught.
There was rationalizations and misconceptions and dogma and all of these things that were taught that once 1978 happened, nobody came around and said, hey guys, guess what? There was no curse, there was no this, there was no that, there were no fence sitters. No one said any of that.
It took the Mormon Church until 1978 when Jimmy Carter was president to say, okay, we're gonna get rid of this guy.
The Book of Mormon, from its publication, says all are alike unto God, black and white, bond and free. And I think racism in the church, which has been problematic, is a problem for the members of the church, not for God.
Hello, Amos.
Good to see you again.
How are you, dear friend?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and leaders of the NAACP announced 3 joint initiatives to help black Americans in need. The church says over the next 3 years, it'll donate $1 million a year to the United Negro College Fund, $2 million a year to humanitarian efforts in the U.S., as well as $250,000 for the Amos C. Brown Student Fellowship to Ghana.
There's an old civil rights song, and it basically says, don't let nobody turn you around.
Don't you let nobody turn you around. Don't you let nobody
And I'll bring that to the memory of these individuals. Let them know, if you have a testimony of this faith, if you have had that, and you joined and have felt that you were in the right place, don't let these circumstances turn you around. Don't let people run you off. Hold your ground. Hold your faith. Be hurt. Acknowledge it. It's real. Have a voice. Speak to it. But don't let yourself be turned around.
you let nobody